So again, if you have any back problems or anything like that, you want to be really careful with any sort of lifting that you're doing. And I would recommend, if you have any sort of injuries or anything like that, go see a doctor, check with a physical therapist beforehand. Make sure that everything that you are planning on doing is safe. Again, I'm just someone on, I'm just a face on a screen right now. I don't know anything about your injuries or anything like that. So just make sure you get it checked out and do it in a safe manner. And Levi agrees. Yeah, don't you? Hey, it's Isaac from Hunger Smash Fitness. Just wanted to talk to you today about the deadlift. So, to begin with, I think the deadlift is probably the most important exercise you can do. It's going to be a full body workout. It really gets everything to fire in a functional pattern, and I think it translates really well to a lot of other activities. So the deadlift's really amazing. Plus, it's just something that I really enjoy. Doing the bench and stuff, bench press isn't practical, I guess, for everyday life. There's not a lot of times where you're going to be stuck in that position where you're having to use those muscles in that pattern, whereas with the deadlift, you're going to find yourself in that position a lot more, where you're having to pick something up off the floor, whatever. So there's a couple different things that go into it. Mobility is a huge thing. You really want to make sure that you have enough mobility. But then you also want to have the strength to complete it. So I won't really focus on the mobility today. I'm going to focus more on the just on the setup and the form aspect of it. So the first part of the deadlift is just approaching the bar, and it's your foot placement. So the first part is just going to be your foot placement. So you're walking up to the bar. Really want to make sure that your feet are about hip width apart. It'll vary based on the individual, because different people have different levers. Their knee angles and everything are different naturally, and so you want to really find out what is most comfortable for you. I used to do a little bit of a wider stance where my feet were just outside my hips, and then I was grabbing outside my legs. The downside of that is then you actually have to go a lot further down to get to the bar. And so then to stand up with it, you have to move the bar a lot further. So that's kind of one of the downsides of it is, it's just, you want to find out how can you move the least to get the most amount of work done. So setting up under the bar, really want to focus, have those feet about hip width apart, turned out slightly, maybe a couple degrees is all. I think it's best if your feet are pointing pretty much straight forward, and then your knees are going to go out just slightly outside of your feet as you're going through the movement. So make sure that you're in a comfortable position, because you don't want to be pushing your knees or your hips or anything in a way where they're not really designed to go there. So that's the first part of the movement. When you're lining up, I've seen some people pull the bar all the way back to their shin and then do the setup. But the problem with that is then as soon as you start going down, your shin is pushing into the bar, pushing the bar away from you, and it's pushing your foot placement off, and it's kind of ruining your setup. So I would say what I find that works a lot better, for me at least, is to have the bar kind of over the base of my big toe, okay? Over that joint right there. And then when I come down into it, I can pull it back just slightly when I tighten everything down. So when I go down into the full when I go down all the way to grab the bar and get my complete set and everything done, my full setup done, the bar will naturally kind of pull back into me, and then I can come up with it. So I would say don't worry a ton off the bat of trying to have it mashed up against your shins or anything like that, because I don't think that's very beneficial. Hand placement, I would say just outside your knees. You'll see a lot of the strongmen and stuff who have a much wider hand placement and foot placement. It's all based off of preference and style of movement, and then also just how they're trying to accomplish it. So for them, it's going to be wider, but I mean, you look at these guys and they've got thighs like tree trunks, and so it works better for them. So I would say if you're just trying to improve your deadlift a little bit, don't worry as much about doing this like super wide stance or anything. This is for conventional deadlift. Make sure that you are fully activating your lats. You want to protect your back the entire way through the movement. So you really want your back tight, locked down. You will have some rounding in your back, and that's totally fine, as long as it's in your thoracic spine. You don't want excessive. You don't want basically your lumbar spine to be completely flattened out and then your thoracic spine over rounded. A little bit of rounding in your thoracic spine is normal. And if you look at any skeleton or skeletal model or anything like that, a little bit of rounding is always going to be there. It's what happens is when that starts to collapse and cave in, and now you're losing your abdominal pressure and everything else as well. So it's something that you want to keep an eye on, and you don't want to over round. But also, if you're trying to overextend your spine, so you're trying to go backwards more, that can be, I would say, just as damaging. So really pay attention to those. Make sure that you are sitting back through the movement and driving. I would say drive through the middle of the foot, but I'd almost, I don't know, I feel like people have, there's confusion with how to drive through the feet. When I do it, I feel like I'm pretty good about driving through my arch, basically. So my pressure is evenly distributed through the ball of my foot and my heel. I'm not perfect at it, but I feel like I'm usually pretty good at that. When I fail a movement is oftentimes when my foot, the way I'm pushing through my foot doesn't come through properly. So keep that in mind. Really pay attention to that. Pay attention to what you're doing with your feet. Really, really, really important. Hips and knees move at the same time. So do not shoot your hips up and then try and pull your torso up or anything like that. You want everything to open in a continuous motion. So you want everything to open evenly. If your hips shoot up but the bar hasn't come off the ground at all, you're using your knees a ton, but you're not using your hips. And the problem with that is then you're going to get to the top of the movement, and now all of a sudden it's all back to try and pull it off the ground. And so you really want to make sure that you have that even distribution between hip and knee movement. And in the video you can see that I'm trying to have both of them work together. So really pay attention to that, and then always as you're coming up through the movement, really focus on flexing your glutes. We'll just put it that way, okay? Almost like you're trying to hold a playing card, okay? You really want everything to be super tight back there and locked up, because that's going to help your legs and your back do their job. Glutes are optimally, I mean, their optimal position is towards the end of the extension movement of the hips. They don't do near as much when the hip is bent at 90 degrees or whatever. So they're going to have the most force later on, so finishing the movement. So that's something that you'd want to pay attention to, is just you really want to build up the pressure and have everything in your body tight. Some people define it as like mind in the muscle. You really want to be aware of everything, how your body is acting and reacting, and really make sure that everything is firing together, everything is working together. And then really big part is before you rip the weight off the ground. Very, very important. Lats are fired, shoulders are kind of forward and down, and so that'll optimally place your lats to activate. And you really want to make sure that, rhomboids, everything from rhomboids, traps, pecs, everything is tight to stabilize your chest as much as possible. And then your core is flexed. You want your core to be extremely tight. That's one of the benefits of using a belt, is it gives your core something to push against, and so it makes it easier to flex your core and to maintain that internal pressure, kind of like a pop can. It has walls all around, and that's what your abdominal muscles are doing, is they're providing that internal pressure for you to push against. So then when your muscles contract, you're protecting your spine. Really, that's what it is. And so that's the whole purpose behind a belt, is to protect your spine, to give you something to push those abdominal muscles against, so that you can stabilize your core that much more, and you're not at risk of, herniating a disc or something like that. So, anyways, in short, that's kind of how to do a deadlift. If you have any questions, you can always hit me up, ask me questions. I can try and do some more instructional videos, or if you want some one-on-one training or something like that, let me know, and I can try and find some time to come and work with you somewhere. But yeah, that's about it for today, I guess. So I hope you guys have a really good week. Looks like it's been really nice out, and so just hope that the weather stays really nice, and just remember to always improve that 1%.